Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin in the name of the God whose mercy is profound, whose kindness is forever. We have been doing the second of the possibilities of why a noun would take the form of nasab in a statement. I mentioned that we are talking about this nasab, this accusative form, accusative case, later than jar, the genitive case, because it has far greater number of possibilities than either of the two, rafa or jar. In the case of rafa, we found that there are only 4 reasons why a noun would take the form of rafa, the nominative case, and there are only 2 reasons why a noun would take the genitive case, the jar form. But this accusative case, the nasab form, has a number of possibilities, and we've as yet discussed 2 only. One is the maf'ul bihi, and the other is hal or halat, the state. And I gave the example of Zaraba Zaidun Khalidan Zahikan, Zahikaini, and I also mentioned that there is also a possibility of Wahuwa Zahikun, giving the same meaning. Although it's a complete sentence, yet when it comes alongside at the end of another sentence, it can actually convey the very same meaning as Zahikan. And this is obviously how the Arabs do. It's actually found in the Quran as well, in a number of verses, and that is what interests us more. Third possibility I'll just mention of halat, and then we'll proceed to the next reason why nasab is found in a noun, in a statement. At times in Arabic you would say Zaraba Zaidun Khalidan, and this is also what you find in the Quran. Not exactly this statement, but statement following the same principle is yadhaku. Now yadhaku is, by the way, a verb, and it's a verb which is verb fi'l mudari, which is a verb for present and future. However, this verb, when it comes in a statement where there is a possibility for Zaraba Zaidun Khalidan, either Zaid or Khalid, requiring the need of expressing the meaning of halat, it could also be yadhaku. Exactly the same meaning, but expressed in 3 different ways, 3 different possible forms. So, Zaraba Zaidun Khalidan, call it Zahikan. Zaraba Zaidun Khalidan wa huwa Zahikun. Zaraba Zaidun Khalidan yadhaku. All 3 mean one and the same thing. Now let's move on. The next, or the third possibility why there is nasab, the accusative case found in a noun in a sentence of Arabic, is obviously we can follow any sequence, but in my sequence that I've put down over here is what is known as Maf'ul lahu. It might have different words, expressions equivalent in English, but I'll just use to begin with, and if I might find something more definite, I'll share it with you. But right now I'm mentioning the reason, the purpose. You know, sometimes you would like to say that he did this thing to him for this reason. You know, Khalid beat up Zaid beat up Khalid to teach him a lesson, to train him, to take revenge or whatever. So, you know, when this kind of a message is to be communicated, then you adopt various different styles. So, for example, if we again follow the same sentence, Zaraba Zaidun Khalidan, and you want to say to teach him manners, to train him in manners. Now, manners is ta'deeb, to discipline him, to give him a reason for him to restrict himself in the manner he is behaving. So, this is to discipline. Ta'deeb means to discipline. So, when this particular noun is used here in the sentence, it would just appear with a nasab. And the meaning would be that beat up Khalid to actually discipline him, to teach him to behave properly, and so on. So the reason why we are talking about it is that it takes the form of a nasab, ta'deeban. And whenever you have a noun which takes nasab in a statement which has a verb, there is a possibility that the noun has taken this accusative nasab form because of the reason being described. I'll give you an example from the Quran, but what I would also like to mention here is that this is not the only way the reason for doing something is mentioned in Arabic. There could be another way of doing it. Daraba Zaydun Khalidan, Zayd beat up Khalid, li ta'dibihi, to discipline him, for him being disciplined. Li really means for the purpose, for the reason. Li, this is a harf jar. When it comes, it gives the genitive case to the immediately following verb, following noun, like it has done to ta'deeb, and therefore it obviously doesn't remain nasab, but it nonetheless is actually giving the same meanings. Ta'deeban or li ta'deebihi. He, the pronoun, obviously referring to Khalid. Zaraba, beat up, Zaydun Zayd, Khalidan Khalid, li ta'deebihi, for him being disciplined, for his disciplining. So that's another way of doing it. Well, I promised that I mention a verse from the Quran. It's verse 31 of Surah Bani Israel. The Almighty is saying, La taqtulu, do not kill. La taqtulu awladakum, do not kill your children. Khashyata imlaq, out of fear of poverty. La, don't taqtulu, kill, awladakum, your children, khashyata imlaq, out of fear of poverty. Now, before I explain it still further, let's do what we already know. Do not kill your children. Awlad is taking a nasab, and I think we should all be clear that this nasab is there because awlad is here maf'ul bihi. So it is taking the form of nasab, and again, let's not forget that it is taking a singular, one solitary harakat, which is a symbol, and that is because it is also the noun which is mudaf, which we call the governing noun. So kum is mudaf ilay, the governed noun, and therefore it's in the form of jar. But as I have been repeating over and over again, it again being a pronoun, it does not show its call it jar credentials. So its appearance doesn't change. We'll talk more about it. Now let's come to the point. Don't kill your children. Why? Khashyata imlaq. For the reason of poverty, out of fear of poverty. Apprehending, fearing that you'll become poor. Imlaq is poverty. Khashya is fear. Now, khashyata imlaq, the fear of poverty. So here, imlaq is taking the jar form because it is mudaf ilay, the governed noun, and khashya is mudaf. It is the governing noun, and therefore it's taking one harakat and not two. But the reason why we are talking about it is that it is in the form of nasab, and the nasab here is because of it being maf'ul lahu, mentioning the reason. So we have done reason number 3. Now let's move on to reason number 4. The fourth reason why noun, when it appears in the nasab accusative state case, it's the reason that is called Maf'ul mutlaq. I've always been saying that Maf'ul mutlaq is a completely unique style, but always wronged because of my very limited knowledge of other languages. But obviously it's something special, even if not unique. In Arabic, you are using a sentence, and notice that when it comes to nasab, as yet what we have discussed, it's in most cases sentences where we have verbs. In case of rafa and jar, well, there are quite a few sentences where we have simply nouns and no verb involved. But in most of these cases of nasab, you've got sentences where you have a verb involved, and then there is a reason why the verb needs, alongside the subject and object, some other expressions which would add to the meanings of the statement. So, Maf'ul mutlaq is, let's call it emphasis or similar other reasons. You want to emphasize, you want to stress the significance, the manner, strong manner that a certain act has been done, and for that you use an expression, a noun which is in the form of nasab. Let's take an example, and the same old example of Daraba Zaydun Khalidan. Zayd beat up Khalid. Now this daraba is a verb, but then this verb, he beat up, sometimes finds a noun which is darbun, which really means to beat up. So this noun emerging from the daraba, or one might say that daraba actually is emerging from darbun, whatever be the case. When to beat up, which obviously is a noun and it's not a verb, because a verb would always come with an understanding of a particular time, tense, either past, present or future. So, Daraba Zaydun Khalidan, Zayd beat up Khalid, and you say Darban, and he really beat him up. He really thrashed him. He beat him up the way the way one is beaten up, the way beating actually takes place. So, emphasis, the expression that the act was done in a manner which was not ordinary, was not soft, and so on. That's what Maf'ul mutlaq is. Sometimes it so happens that you also follow it up by certain other nouns which are adjectives. Zaid beat up Khalid zarban shadidan, harshly, thrashed him, and very severely, shadidan. Now, you often find that this zarban, which is maf'ul mutlaq, is actually removed, it's omitted, it's not mentioned. And you only find shadidan. Zaraba Zaydun Khalidan shadidan. And the idea is that even though zarban is not present, it is implied. And by implication, the next noun, shadidan, which is actually coming immediately after zarban, is showing the presence of zarban as well, even though it has been omitted. This kind of omission is what you will find quite often in Arabic expressions and in the Quran. Omission because it's implied. It's something which is there but has not been mentioned. An example from the Quran that I would like to mention here is the example in Surah An-Nisa, the 4th Surah. The Almighty says, "Va kallama Allahu." Kallama, he talked, spoke. Wa kallama Allahu, and Allah spoke, talked to. Allah is the subject, and that is why it's taking rafa. And obviously, when you have a verb, you want to have a doer of the verb, the subject, which is what Allah here is. وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ, and Allah spoke to Musa, Moses. But, the manner he spoke, or the quality of the communication has actually been emphasized here by this verb, the way its origin is in a noun, which is takleem. That's how it is. The same noun from which it emerges is used here, takleem, but in the nasab form. And the idea is that the sentence is conveying the understanding that Allah, God, He talked to Musa, but don't imagine that it was a mere exchange of information through signs, symbols, indirect, in the form of wahi. No, it was a real communication, the way two individuals they speak to each other in the literal sense. So that is what taklima has been able to do in this statement, in this verse. So what I'm saying is that maf'ul mutlaq is something which is very special. It appears and it actually comes in a statement, in a sentence where we have a verb, and the verb is mentioned in a way, while it's followed up by a noun mentioned in a way that the noun actually gives an understanding that the verb has actually been done in the manner it really should be done, in the real way, in an intense way. The effect is emphasized, and the idea is that it wasn't done at an ordinary level. It was done at a special level. Sometimes it is also used, the same maf'ul mutlaq, to actually convey not necessarily emphasis, but a particular quality, a particular manner, a particular way the act was done. So, for example, I'll just give you an example. The same old example of Zaraba Zaidun Khalidan. And the noun dharbun, the same dharbun, comes and we say Zarbal Ustaz. Zad beat up Khalid. The beating up of Ustaz. Ustaz's beating, the way a teacher beats up. Now, this nasab is because of maf'ul mutlaq, even though this time round it's not necessary that it's conveying the sense of something done intensely, something done in a manner which is much higher than the ordinary level. It's a sense which is actually giving the beating up done for a certain purpose, or it has a certain quality, it has a certain category in which it was done, or it can be confined to a certain category, like the manner a teacher would beat up. And this nasab is again going to be attributed to maf'ul mutlaq. And of course, now that you can see, that's what the advantage of repeating over and over again is, that this zarb is one symbol, harakat of nasab, because it is mudaf, the governing noun, and al-ustaz is mudaf ilayh. And not surprisingly, therefore, ustaz is taking the form of jar, which is the genitive case. So what we have seen is the fourth case, that there is nasab in a statement, and the nasab appears because of the fact that the noun belongs to the category of maf'ul mutlaq. It has come in many cases to convey the message of emphasis, to convey the message that it was done at no ordinary level, but at a pretty high level of its intensity. And sometimes it is also used to convey the sense that it was done for a particular purpose. The more you practice, the more you read, the more you would find that the shades of meaning are going to emerge, unfold themselves, so as to for you to be able to understand what are the different advantages of having these different types of mansubat, the accusative forms, nasabs. Then we have a fifth category of reason why a nasab it appears. Some people might say that it's something that you might have done before, but the sequencing is always the prerogative of the presenter. It's called Tamiz. Tamiz. Tamiz is to clarify. You know, when a noun comes conveying the sense of tamyiz, it clarifies. It distinguishes. Sometimes you want to say that there are two nouns that are compared with each other, one being call it bigger than the other, but then there is a question. There is something which seems to be missing, and you want to clarify. That's where tamyiz appears. For example, for a change, and that's why I think that it coming in the fifth place is not a bad idea, because we're now done with the same old example of Zaraba Zaidun Khalidan. We are now here with, let's say, Zaid. Okay, let's not do away with our characters. Akbar. Zaidun Akbar min Khalid. Now this probably would help because we're now into examples, but the examples are actually helping us in revising what we've already done. Zaid is Akbar. Now Akbar is superlative as well as comparative. And here obviously it's comparative when you have a min coming afterwards. Akbar is here in the form of rafa, but it's just one and not two symbols, two tanween, dhamma. Why? We'll talk about it later. This obviously, despite the fact that it doesn't have an alif lam preceding it, but this is a full-fledged sentence. Zaid is Akbar. Zaid is mubtada and Akbar is khabar, inquisitive and enunciative. But min Khalidin, Zaid is bigger than Khalid. Now min is harf jar, and it is therefore giving Khalid the case of jar, the genitive case, because of min. However, the sentence does not clarify in what sense Zaid is bigger than Khalid, because there could be a number of possibilities. It's bigger than Khalid in age, in height, in wealth, in knowledge, in wisdom, and so on. So let's say Zaid is bigger than Khalid in knowledge. You just come up with the appropriate word for knowledge and you give it nasab, and you will have tamyiz, the word that distinguishes, clarifies, makes the statement absolutely clear that what exactly is the sense in which this bigness is being expressed. We'll continue our discussion in the next of our sessions about how many more reasons are there for a noun to take nasab in a sentence. May the Almighty enable us to understand the language of His book properly, and may thus also be able to understand His book as best as we can.